Hello, Lynn.
Hello, there we are live on YouTube. And Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Yeah, hi. This is
Hel-
Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It's great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy from Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. I have my two beautiful soul sisters with me today. I'm super excited about our discussion. Myrna Skoller in Boca Raton, Florida. She is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, which is a great companion to the Course in Miracles workbook for students. She's also the author of quite a few other books. She just sent me a fabulous crime novel that me and my husband are so excited to read. How are you today, Myrna?
Very well, thank you. Yeah. And yeah, very well. How about you?
Okay, good. So, and then also Glorian is here to talk with us. How are
Hi,
you today,
Gloria
Glorian?
again.
Doing very well. Good
Good
to see
seeing you
you
again.
again here for all these holidays and yeah, glad to be here with you both.
Me too. Really good.
So I will start out with the introduction of my book, as I like to do. What I write is I write, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. Today's lesson, today is January 16th. So, and I think it's so fabulous that Lynn has been emailing us the lesson of the day, which I read every morning. Today's lesson is pretty powerful. I have no neutral thoughts. So, A Course in Miracles is telling us that not only are we responsible for our actions in the world, we're also responsible for our thoughts, which basically thoughts are the cause. What happens in the world is the effect. So it's very important to be aware of what ideas are going through your head. It says here in the third paragraph, which I have highlighted, besides you are recognizing that thoughts are never idle, salvation requires that you also recognize that every thought you have brings either peace or war, either love or fear. So every thought that the Course in Miracles tells us that we have two teachers, the Holy Spirit and the ego. We can't follow the direction of both at the same time. We can't listen to both at the same time. It's either one or the other. We're either aligned with the Holy Spirit or we're giving control over our ego. A Course in Miracles is teaching us how to align ourselves with the thoughts of God, align ourselves with the thoughts of the Holy Spirit as often as possible. So it's up to us to start paying attention to the thoughts that are in our mind. So, because when we get lazy, it's kind of easy for the ego to come in. But when we are disciplined, when we use mental discipline, which A Course in Miracles teaches us to do, A Course in Miracles is a program in mind training. It's teaching us how to focus on the love. So I have no neutral thoughts. It's very attention. It's very important to pay attention to our thoughts, which is why for me, starting out the day with a meditation is super important. And I did not do that this morning. So my thoughts got a little wacky this morning. But I think for me, when I can really just still my mind, I love that biblical verse, be still and know that I am God. When I can still my mind, it's just such a miraculous mindset to reside in. Any thoughts, Myrna?
It's funny that you brought that up because previously, just now, I was saying that what's been happening to me lately is at 3 a.m. in the morning, I've been waking up, and these thoughts that have sort of have had a traumatic effect on me seem to be coming up, and they seem to really be disturbing me. Now, I try to run away from it, but then it just seems to pursue me. And then when I try to uh, look at it, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm sort of grappling with where I'm supposed to be with those thoughts, how I'm supposed to be handling them. I think it's a lesson that I'm supposed to be learning somehow. There's got to be a reason that this has been happening. It's not just last night, but it's been ongoing lately, and that never happened before like this. There has to be some sort of a reason. And I know that our thoughts create our reality. And our thoughts are not real anyway. I mean, these are illusions that I'm sort of uh, pretty much distressed by the illusion of really nothing when I think about it. And yet at the same time, it's sort of uh, making me wonder really, why this is happening and so forth. But during the day, I'm fine, and I really pursue my work, and everything seems to be as normal. But this seems to be happening at 3 o'clock in the morning, and so everybody was sort of giving me a little bit of insight about it. And I suppose I'm not the first one this is happening with. But it's an interesting observation. And again, I'm really more fearful 3 o'clock in the morning because you begin to wonder, well, what is this all about? Are these thoughts chasing me? And at the same time, during the day, I'm really better able to look at it because it's more of something that now I can focus on and now come to terms with on a different level and so forth. So, but the thoughts, I have no neutral thoughts. That's today's lesson 16. Every thought has bearing on something, and each thought creates, what our reality is, even though it's not a reality. Any thoughts about that, Susan?
Well, actually, I'm going to pass the mic to Glorian. If Glorian, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we were discussing
Mhm.
that, and the idea is, with doing these workbook lessons, it brings the unconscious to the conscious so that we can let it go. And every year we go deeper and deeper and deeper. So, if this is coming up, then there's something there because, we see something, we own it, and it really turns out to be a gift that Spirit's offering us to move into greater realization that I'm not a body, which is fundamentally the only lesson we really need to learn is that I'm not a body, I'm free, I'm as God created me, limitless in power and peace, and in a state of grace forever. So that's what all seeming lessons are bringing us into that realization of. And I like what you shared there, Susan, and it is a mind training that undoes our false thought system so that our real thoughts then are present. So we look at that, we bring the unconscious to the conscious so that we can let it go. And, I think it's really important to do that because if we don't see what we're doing, then it remanifests itself because it's a projection of our mind. Projection makes perception, which is a mirror and not a fact. And when you were talking about today's lesson, I have a few ideas as I'm doing the work lesson every day with a group of people. And I just jot down some comments as they come to me. And of course, every year they're different. And we rely upon the fresh manner that's revealed to us in that moment. So should I just share some of them or you want me to hold off a bit?
Sure.
So with today's lesson, I have no neutral thoughts. It's very liberating because it gives us that opportunity to recognize that I'm giving meaning to something, but I can make a different choice about that. So our thoughts do have effects. What we see is the projection of our thoughts. Thoughts are true or false. True thoughts create, false thoughts make or project or separate. Love, creation, extends. Fear projects and separates. There are no idle thoughts. Neutral thoughts are impossible. It is necessary that we recognize fear thoughts are destructive. They are destructive because they keep reality from our awareness. They are illusions and are unreal. Every thought is not a neutral thought. I have no neutral thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, so here in the chat room, Robert writes he wrote this a few minutes ago, about 10 minutes ago, when I was talking about the two choices that we have at each and every moment, love or fear. Robert wrote, the two opposites, PM and AM, death and life, only one is true. Um, yeah, so at each and every moment, we can choose love, and love is the truth of who we are. Or we can choose fear. And fear seems to be the predominant thought system that pervades the world today, this earthly classroom today. It's all over the news, it's everywhere you look. So it really does require mental focus to choose love at each and every moment. That's why, for me, meditations are so important. Course in Miracles lessons are so important because it's just so easy to get into the hands of the ego. I mean, the ego is an illusion. The ego is not real. The ego is always trying to divert our attention away from God. It's a sneaky little entity that ego is. We talk about it. The ego speaks first, the ego speaks loudest. So basically, in order to release the ego, we need to quiet our minds, because God's voice is always with us. God's voice is always guiding us. So he is always there. He is always speaking to us. But we need to quiet our mind and release the ego in order to hear him. So that's where the challenge lies. And I love your thoughts that you wrote down from your Morning Course in Miracles group. That was really clear, and it helped me. Myrna and Gloria, and you both helped me very much align my thoughts with the thoughts of God. Any thoughts, Myrna? You're on mute. Myrna, you're on mute. Yep, you're on mute, Myrna.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So you were just saying choosing love over fear. And that's what, the ego does, it just, we have to learn to really release the ego. And that's a process of shifting, from fear and separation and judgment toward love and forgiveness. And the Course teaches that like you say, getting away from the ego but the ego is a false belief. That's the thing. Everything that we have, every thought that we have, and I realize this when I have those thoughts that are unwelcome, that is really the full self that I'm really placing too much emphasis on. And, the full self really is just a form of isolation. And we constantly are choosing thoughts that reflect our true nature, and our true nature is just love and oneness. And the false self really is something that we're projecting. It's not of us. And through practices such as forgiveness and mindful awareness of our thoughts and a willingness to see beyond appearances, I think we gradually let go of ego-driven patterns. And that's what's been happening, to let go of an ego-driven pattern is a matter of opening up to a higher guidance, which is rooted in peace and compassion for ourselves, really. Um, so, so I think the process is not about fighting the ego or, suppressing the ego, but rather about recognizing its illusions and constantly choosing a loving response instead. So that's really the choice that we're given. It's not that there's no choice. It's a matter of looking at it and saying, what do I choose? Do I choose love or do I choose fear? And as we cultivate this new way of seeing, the ego's influence diminishes and our experience of inner freedom and genuine connection really becomes the forefront, should be the forefront of our thoughts. And that requires a lot of practice, a willingness to say that I just am determined to choose love over fear by consciously directing our thoughts and actions, and rather than allowing fear and separation to guide me. I mean, that's something that I have to really pay attention to, that we all do. Love is aligned with truth and inner peace. And, fear is something else that perpetuates the illusions and conflict. And so by recognizing that every thought has an effect, we're really invited to let go of fearful patterns and embrace the mindset, which is rooted in love. And that, I think, transforms our perception and experiences of the world. Thoughts about that, Susan?
Yeah, good, good. I love what you're saying, Myrna. Glorian?
Yeah, I love what you're sharing. And, we recognize that everything is perfect because it's happening and it's for our higher good and it's for our unfoldment. It may not seem that way, but that's, Jesus tells us in the Course, doubt will go to come again. So we're gentle with ourselves. We recognize that, this is a process and we're gentle but vigilant for God in the kingdom. And being a process, the mind training is a process. And the atonement, through the atonement process, we let go of our guilt and fear to move into that at one-ment, which is the return to love you were talking about as we were created. So, Jesus tells us knowledge will return when we've done our part. Our part's giving welcome to the truth. So we have to remember that this is the mind training is an unlearning of everything we thought, which, there's some loss in there, really, if you look at that. We're giving up everything that we believed in and recognizing it as error and the upside down thinking. So that's the whole point. We are attached to this. How many years have we been believing something and gradually letting it go, so that we can accept what's true. But, I've been recognizing that, as far as this unlearning, things do come up and they're meant to come up. And that's what this workbook is about. And that's where we look at the unconscious, bring it to our consciousness is Jungian in that, but if we don't look at it, it's not going to go away. And that's why when we talk about denial, people being in denial, no one can ever really be in denial because everything's a projection of what they think, that projection making perception, which is a mirror of their thoughts, not a fact. So, we want to recognize that and use it, not beat ourselves up over the head with platitudes or anything. Recognize this is how I feel right now. To me, I'm not about like denying feelings. If this is what I feel, there's something there for me to look at. My feelings are showing me what I think. And if I recognize that, I can make another choice about it. If I don't recognize it, then I'm not going to make a different choice. And the fear is going to keep perpetuating. So ultimately, it's a gift. And it may not seem so, but we can recognize that if we use everything, all of it is a gift. The reflections of love's presence that we see are gifts. And the seeming obstacles to peace that come up, they're gifts also because it's giving us that opportunity to look on it in a different way through the eyes of Christ. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Myrna. Thank you, Glorian. I
Thank you,
mean,
Gloria.
we all have pain points in our unconscious minds. If we were perfect, we would not have been born. I believe the reason we're here in this earthly classroom is to learn to overcome the fear, overcome the illusions, overcome the pain. We are here to learn to love unconditionally. So the world will trigger those pain points that are stored in our unconscious mind. And when they do come up, as we've all been saying, it's not about denying them. It's not about projecting them. That's what most people do. When their pain points come up, they project them onto circumstances. They project them onto situations. They project them onto people. But when the pain points do get triggered, when the pain points do come up, what we need to do is we need to own them, take responsibility for them. And I believe that's how we overcome them. That's how we release them. One of my favorite paragraphs in A Course in Miracles is the escape from darkness. The escape from darkness involves two stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This step usually entails fear. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. This step brings escape from fear. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. I mean, I believe it's about bringing our darkness to the light. What I do is I pray, I ask the Holy Spirit for help. And by owning the pain, by taking responsibility for the pain, this is how we overcome it. This is how we release it. This is how we see it's not real. This is how we get to the other side of it. And everyone that is in this world has pain that they need to overcome. And that's just part of what this earthly classrooms gives us the opportunity to do. Another paragraph that I found in A Course in Miracles that's very deep and meaningful to me is in the preface. The world we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference, the dominant ideas, wishes, and emotions in our minds. Projection makes perception. We look inside first, decide the kind of world we want to see, and then project that world outside, making it the truth as we see it. We make it true by our interpretation of what we are seeing. So the external world that we are experiencing is always a result of the thoughts that we are focusing on within our minds. Projection makes perception. The external world is just reflecting back to us what is going on internally, and then in this same paragraph, it writes about forgiveness. And it says that we must learn to forgive. I mean, A Course in Miracles, I think that's the number one tool that A Course in Miracles gives us to make it home to heaven. It's through forgiveness. Forgiveness is not needed in heaven because in heaven there is no condemnation. But forgiveness is needed in this world because there is lots of condemnation and judgment in this world. So our way out of the condemnation and the judgment is by forgiveness. And as we forgive our brother, we forgive ourselves. As we forgive our brother, we feel our own innocence. That's how we reconnect to the truth of who we are. That's how we align our minds with God's mind. It's through forgiveness. Now, why must we forgive? This is like an amazing line. All this, it talks about seeing a world of evil, destruction, malice, envy, and despair. And then it says, all this we must learn to forgive, not because we are being good and charitable, but because what we are seeing is not true. I mean, that line to me is just so amazing. It's not like God gives us brownie points by forgiving our brother. Why do we forgive? We forgive because what we are seeing is not true. Unforgiveness, resentments, grievances distort our vision. We cannot align our mind with the mind of Christ when we are holding on to grievances, resentments, and untruths. We must forgive because we're not seeing clearly. It's like when your glasses, actually, this is right before I got on today, I just wiped off my glasses because there were some spots in my glasses. When we don't forgive, it's like there's spots in our vision. We're not seeing clearly. And when we forgive, we can actually see clearly, because the truth of our brother is he is a beautiful, innocent child of God. And when we can see that in him, we can feel that within ourselves, because what we see without exacerbates itself within. When I see beauty, I feel my own beauty. When I see grievances, when I see anything other than love, I'm just not seeing clearly. So forgiveness is I would say it's the easiest and it's the fastest way to get home to heaven. It's the easiest and the fastest way to get back to a place of peace within our own mind. I know at our last talk here in Gather, we spoke about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which was the most amazing example of love that anyone could ever exemplify, anyone could ever endure or show us. So the people crucified Jesus. He never did anything wrong. They were just intimidated by the fact that he said he was God, and they were afraid of this truth, and they crucified him. And his response was not one of anger. His response was, God, forgive them. They know not what they do. I mean, that's the ultimate example of staying connected to the truth of who he was. And we all have the ability to do that. Jesus tells us in A Course in Miracles that we will never be asked to be crucified. I mean, this is not something that will happen to us, but that was the ultimate example of staying connected to God, even in the most horrific circumstances. Thoughts, Myrna?
It's amazing when you think about it, Jesus really taught that forgiveness, how essential forgiveness is, teaching it on the cross and then bringing it into the Course in Miracles, teaching us how, I mean, everything surrounds forgiveness. It's the central teaching of the Course in Miracles, and because it's a means by which we release the illusions and return to truth. And the Course describes forgiveness not simply as overlooking, other people's actions or even justifying our own actions, but to recognize that the perceived wrongs, because that's what wrongs are, they're perceived, and perceived judgments are based on illusions and create fear. So I think through forgiveness, we let go of these mistaken beliefs and then allow love and unity to replace resentment and conflict, the conflict that we experience within ourselves. So this process is very, very transformative because it heals our perception and it restores our inner peace and reconnects us with our own shared innocence and oneness. And so, according to the Course, we're really doing it for ourselves. That's what the ultimate strive is for, to heal ourselves. So when we forgive, we're freeing ourselves from the suffering caused by holding on to grievances and judgments. And by choosing forgiveness, we can make a conscious decision to see beyond the appearances and relate to other people and to ourselves, really, from a place of understanding at this point. So it's the shift from illusion to truth that brings about healing and helps us to experience the peace and joy that come from recognizing our true connectedness to our brothers. And also releases illusions, the false beliefs that arise from separation and fear rather than truth and love. And we're constantly trying to absorb that illusions, really are the root of suffering and pain because they distort reality and keep us from recognizing our true nature. And that is oneness with others. So by questioning and releasing those illusions, such as thoughts of judgment or guilt or unworthiness, then we can return our awareness to love and unity. And ultimately, the Course invites us to see beyond the illusion and to embrace the truth of our interconnectedness and inner peace. Thoughts, Gloria?
Yeah, beautiful. Both of you, so much said here. You just said about that interlocking chain of forgiveness.
Mhm.
Perfect. And, when you were speaking about, when I think it was Susan, about what you spoke about last time, about the crucifixion, and we recognize, that Jesus of the Bible was crucified, but the mystic Jesus knew he was spirit and the crucifixion had no effect. So we can, he still wandered into temptation. Pass this cup from me, Father. So we recognize that we are going to wander into temptation, and it's our job to remember that nothing seemingly happening here has any effect on the one. So just the first two lines of that prayer: forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you. And our true relationship is the oneness, which is the healing, which is our freedom. So then Susan was talking about the classroom. And if we recognize and we embrace everything as all things are lessons that God would have me learn, and the lesson is always showing me that I am one self united with my Creator. So, if you look at what Karen and Dove are doing with the lesson 181 to 200, where Jesus tells us, any of those lessons, if you get it perfectly, is the whole course. And what really has come to me is it's those review lessons that start with, I'm not a body, I'm free, I'm as God created me. It states the lesson and then it repeats that again. So only, when we were talking about love, and Susan said, we're here to extend unconditional love. Only in that recognition of what I am can we be an instrument for that impersonal love of God. And we're accepting that mind that was in Christ Jesus, non-condemning, non-judging, non-analyzing. So if we're going to move into forgiveness, we recognize forgiveness, not forgiveness to destroy, I forgive you because, but forgiveness, the recognition that what our brother did never occurred. True forgiveness to come from that place of recognition that what my brother did never occurred, we have to be in non-judgment, which true forgiveness, complete forgiveness is non-judgment, which we accept in that holy instant, the instant of oneness, where we're in that quiet place, receptive to spirit. And that's where Jesus tells us at the end of the year with our lessons, we have the willingness to allow the Spirit of God to lead and direct our life. This holy instant I would give to you, be you in charge at my request, for I would follow you, certain your direction gives me peace. If I need a word, if I need a thought, if I need a tranquil, open mind, these are the gifts I receive of Him, recognizing that the ego is not going to do it. We can't spiritualize an ego. It has to be set down, surrendered. And Jesus tells us in the principles that purification is necessary first. The ego will not purify. The ego is the antithesis of purification. It's keeping us separate from that realization of what I am. So true purification only comes through our alignment with that mind that was in Christ Jesus, through our willingness to no longer condemn, to no longer judge, to stop analyzing and leave the realm of perception and rest in the kingdom, which is the Christ consciousness within. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gloria, and thank you, Myrna. A lot of wisdom was shared, and I'm actually I'm actually finally feeling more centered. I came into this talk today with a lot of anger from the world, and I'm just definitely as I focus on the truth, I really start feeling the love within my heart, and it's I feel it through our shares. So thank you for your wisdom. I mean, as we have all been saying, well, I say A Course in Miracles talks about the three fastest, easiest ways to make it home to heaven is forgiveness, acceptance, and gratitude, with forgiveness being the most important. But as you just said, true forgiveness basically is not uh, coming from a place of superiority, as I was taught in the religious Lutheran church that I grew up in. Course in Miracles is saying that true forgiveness wipes away the mistake entirely. True forgiveness sees through the error to the innocence within our brother. So true forgiveness is just wiping away that sin, that circumstance that lacked love. It's wiping that unfortunate circumstance away completely. And by forgiving our brother, we're actually feeling the innocence within ourself. So forgiveness actually, does it benefit our brother? Maybe, but the person who benefits the most from forgiveness is ourself. Like when we choose not to forgive, what we do is we actually draw similar circumstances to us. I strongly believe this, because when we don't forgive someone for something they have done, it's like that pain point is alive in our unconscious mind, and it's like a magnet. It draws similar fear-based circumstances to our lives, because each time we're triggered, it's another opportunity to forgive. So forgiveness actually releases that painful episode from our lives, so we don't have to keep reliving it. So we don't have to keep relearning the lesson. Once we can truly forgive someone for something, universe is like, okay, lesson learned, and then we can release that negative energy from our self, from our aura, from our lives. I had a discussion with a friend of mine the other day, and I was talking about forgiveness. And I was talking about a friend of mine who does not believe in forgiveness. So I was sharing with the friend I was talking to about another friend who doesn't, believe so in forgiveness. And the friend I was talking to said, well, I mean, different strokes for different folks. Everyone has their own way of thinking. And I don't, and I thought about that. And I definitely don't think A Course in Miracles is for everyone. I mean, it's my path to peace, love, joy, and happiness. It's my path to heaven, but everyone has their own path, to heaven. I mean, A Course in Miracles is very clear that it is one path to God. It is not the only path to God. But to not believe in forgiveness, can a person still get home to heaven without forgiveness? Like I don't really think that's possible, because you can't, even if you're not a Course in Miracles student, you can't hold on to grievances and resentments, and feel the truth of who you are. Like, it's just impossible. So in my mind, forgiveness is a mandatory, a necessary prerequisite in order to get home to heaven. I mean, I can't think of any other way, and then where you brought up the ego, Glorian, and I think Myrna spoke about the ego as well. And it's very clear. We have two choices: love or fear. The Holy Spirit is basically an entity of unconditional love, and it's bringing peace to our minds. The ego is all about fear, and then you kind of compare that ego to traditional Christians' devil. And sometimes I say to my Christian friends, I can use that interchangeably and say, okay, your devil is my ego. It's just a different word, but it's more than a different word, because in the religious doctrine, there is a devil. There is a dark force that's trying to pull us away from God. That devil exists. In A Course in Miracles, the ego is an illusion. The ego is not real. So nobody is trying to pull us away from God. It's just we connect with the egoic thought system when we lose our focus. So it's A Course in Miracles is non-dualistic. Only the love is real. Traditional religion is dualistic. It's God versus the devil. So it is very different. And for me, the Course in Miracles makes so much more sense, because it's telling us, when we look at the ego, when we see the ego for what it is, we'll see that there's nothing there. The ego will just dissipate. Not that we have to fight it, not that we have to overcome it. We don't have to do anything like that. All we need to do is look at it and see that it does not exist. Right, Myrna?
Yes, yes, yes. That's the ego. The ego, helps us. Yes, the ego does help us navigate through our daily life, but it also creates barriers to forgiveness, by holding on to all these perceived slights and insisting on being right, making it harder to release negative emotions, and makes it harder for us to move forward. So, when we choose not to forgive, we're carrying a weight. The weight that we're carrying is the one of anger, bitterness, resentment, and these negative emotions affect our mental health and our physical health as well. Because it leads to stress and anxiety and physical ailments, and that's something that is so important when you think about it. Why suffer when you really don't have to suffer? If non-forgiveness creates all those adverse physical ailments and emotional as well, then why do we hold on to it? So it's like holding on to our grudges strains us, puts strain on us, and prevents us from forgiving or experiencing genuine peace and happiness in our life. We wonder, why do we do it? And we think that we have no choice sometimes, but we do have a choice. We can. And the Course really sustains us in that belief that we do have a choice, that we can release it, that we don't have to live a life of bitterness, resentment, negativity, that we can move forward. And it's the conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment. And regardless of whether we think someone deserves it or not, it involves letting go of negative emotions and choosing to move with compassion and understanding, and it doesn't mean that we have to forget or excuse the offense, like I said before. Rather, it means just freeing ourselves from the burdens that we create through all the burdens that affect us. And when we can release those burdens, then we then allow healing and peace to take place. We're leaving a space for the healing to move in and take the place of fear. Yeah.
Gloria?
Well, I love everything you're both sharing. And what was coming to me as you were speaking is that, the recognition that if we see a brother as he's not, we're malpracticing him, which means we've malpracticed ourselves. So going back to that prayer, forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you. Forgive us our illusions, meaning that we stop judging what we seemingly think we see. And in that non-judgment, we accept what we are in alignment with the Father, our true relationship, the one self. So, and then I think it was you, Susan, who said something about truth, and truth will correct all error in my mind. So if we recognize truth, the truth is the experience of what I am, will correct, make that shift in perception from fear to love. Truth will correct all, he says, all errors in my mind. So when we were saying about the different paths, all error is everything that we see. So what we're asking for in the recognition of truth of what I am, the experience of what I am, is to see that the truth will correct all errors, all mistaken beliefs, which is the entire upside down thinking of this world. And that's our goal, to recognize that everything we seemingly see, all error and the upside down thinking, so that we can return to the oneness that we are. That's why the workbook lessons will take us to, I am the light of the world. And I just wanted to share this. I don't usually share a personal, but this week there was many temptations that were coming up. So I got to this place where I'm like, I'm done with this BS or whatever. So in my practice, when I recognize I'm in temptation, I immediately move to presence. And in presence, then I heard, after saying, I'm done with this BS, I heard, well, then be done with it. So that's it. Spirit reminding me that this is the choice that I am making, but I can make another choice about it. And I can be done with it by relinquishing my attachment, relinquishing the meaning that I'm giving, the investment in the outcome of things, and resting in that truth of what I am. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Myrna. Thank you, Glorian. So I see in the chat room here a very, very interesting thought question from Akuti. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. She says, why do you think the religious groups were created? What is the idea in these groups? And again, I just love that question, which we don't have time to go into. Oh, thank you. I did pronounce your name properly. Because it's just such a broad question. And I learned so much by comparing traditional religious beliefs to A Course in Miracles, because I grew up in a traditional Lutheran church. And what I believe is, I believe a lot of man's fear got projected onto a false god. Obviously, there is a lot of truth in religion, but there are errors as well. I believe A Course in Miracles was scribed by Helen Schuckman to clarify the misinterpretations of the Bible. So again, I love the question. We don't have enough time to answer it, but it would be a great subject to spend the entire talk on. And today I will end with the introduction, as I usually do. It's 2:00. However, I'm going to go back a little because I think it's really amazing what Jesus writes here a couple sentences before the nothing real can be threatened line. What he writes is, he writes, the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all encompassing can have no opposite. The Course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. Thank you so much. I loved our hour. Thank you, Myrna. Thank you, Glorian. Thank you, everyone in the room. Akuti, Robert, Wellington, Dove, Lynn, Carrie, and I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Susan Michel. Thank you, Gloria, and thank you, Myrna. Wow, what a wonderful hour. Very, very beautifully spoken, everything. So I'm so grateful for you all. And I will end this meeting, close out the room, and we will see you all later or tomorrow morning at least. So some of you. All right. Love you all.